Hey everybody, and welcome. I'm RJ McDowell, one of the founders of Name Unknown. Today we're going to be looking at anonymous FTP, what type of information we can obtain from anonymous FTP. We're specifically going to be doing that using the Nemesis platform. So a quick overview of anonymous FTP. FTP stands for File Transfer Protocol. It's a way to share, upload and download files over a network. These are often set up within internal corporate networks for sharing files amongst employees, customers, but they can also be on the internet. Let's say they want to allow distribution of their software, or you want to be able to access your pictures or other types of documents when you travel. FTP servers allow you to do that. Now, these are typically configured to require authentication, but there is something called anonymous FTP, which is a feature that allows you to access the server's files without authenticating. This does have legitimate use cases. As an example, if you want to share software or pictures or other types of things, send an FTP link that is public and allows anonymous authentication, and then anybody on the internet can access it. A lot of freeware softwares are distributed this way, but oftentimes this is a misconfiguration, and it leads to the disclosure of extremely sensitive information such as passwords, social security numbers, and even passports, sensitive financial information, emails, a lot of stuff. And we're going to be diving into that. The Nemesis platform works to identify all the anonymous FTP servers accessible on the internet, and then works to then index the content that is available, allowing our end users to easily search and filter against that content to find sensitive information relevant to them. So to kick things off, if we choose the anonymous FTP module, and let's say we want to just look for a specific extension, we can start with, say, Word documents. So we just put in docx and hit search. What this is going to do is it's going to go ahead and filter to Word documents across all of the different files that we've enumerated. Now, it's saying 10,000 results right down here, but really this is probably millions. It's just that 10,000 is the hard limit we put per search query. Now, let's say we want to dive in and actually find useful information within all these different documents. We can apply a filter here and give it a name. We can create one, or we can load one from our filter group. And so you can see these global filters. These are accessible to all of our customers. They come baked into the platform. You can create your own filters and save them, and then they're accessible here, and only you can see them. So in this case, let's look at passwords. As you can see, this is a pretty simple filter, but highly effective. It's going to filter out any document that doesn't have the word password in it. So everything you see here has password. So if we drill into one of these, we can start to identify who this actually belongs to, and is there sensitive information exposed. We can look at the server information here, but then we also pull the metadata from the document. So we can see it's Microsoft Word. Oh, we can see the author was right here. We can see the date and time stamp. So this is very useful information because as a red team consultant, we can start to extract these types of fields and build username lists, especially for corporate documents. It's also going to help us identify what software the end user is using. So if we need to create malware, we'll know what type of computer to target: Mac, Windows, etc. If we look down here, while we extract the metadata, we also extract the content. So even from PDFs, archives, things like that, we extract the content and then convert it to text that's readable. So that way you can just simply drill into a document and very quickly and easily look at the metadata and then also look at the content. And if I wanted to download the document, I could simply do that here. Now, we have operational security in mind for our end users. When you download the document, it's not downloading it from the server. It's downloading it through our platform. So your IP address isn't going to be exposed for the documents that you download. we can see here that this is definitely going to contain passwords, looks like to PayPal, US Bank, a bunch of different things, Google. Yeah, there's a lot of exposure here. What we would want to do is just notify this end user. And if we see this, one of these companies is actually our own, and they're one of our customers, we could reach out and be proactive, say, hey, we see that your information is being exposed here. We want to let you know so that you could change your passwords, and that you could, check to see if anybody has accessed it without your knowledge. So this allows us to find, our own company exposures, client exposures, and then just individuals that may not know any better, right? I mean, not everybody's going to be super tech savvy and understand the risks that come with, setting up an anonymous FTP server. So this is one example. As you can see, there's tons of results that we can go through. And and you can imagine if we put in a spreadsheet extension or TXT, we're going to have a very similar outcome. So the next example, let's look at some PDFs. So let's just change this to PDF after I clear out the filter, and then boom. So we can see again a lot of results, and we want to drill down into it. So let's look at what we have for our saved filter groups. So SSN card exposure. This is one that I came up with previously that does a great job of just quickly showing the type of information that is being exposed on these anonymous FTP servers. So as you can see, copy of SSN cards and license. Immediately it sounds terrible, and it is. So if we drill into it, we can again identify who the author is. We can look through other types of metadata, and then the content. Now you'll notice here it says copy of ssncards.jpg. This probably means that the PDF is actually hosting a JPEG. So to see that, we want to download the file. So let's go ahead and download it. This is going to download it through our platform. And we can just choose Open with Firefox. And yes, that's exactly what we have here. So we have a temporary permit and then social security card. Looks for several different people. So yeah, this definitely is bad. This could definitely be used maliciously. So being able to notify the end user of this exposure would be great. We could also take this IP address and look at the DNS records or other types of services that are accessible using the other modules within Nemesis, such as the DNS module, web services, web certificates. But we're just going to be looking at anonymous FTP. But that's a great example of how you could actually transition to the other modules from information you find within here. For the next one, let's look at email exposure. Obviously there's going to be a lot of archival purposes for FTP. So let's look at PST. PST is the file format for Outlook typically, and how you would save your mailbox data. So all your emails and attachments, things like that. So you can see here we have 6 gigs, 7 gigs. These are huge files. So these are definitely related to email. We could download those and obtain very sensitive things. Now, there's also another extension we can look at, MSG. So this one can be a few different things. This can be like a welcome message, which is just going to have text for like a server. So what we want to do is apply a filter to get rid of the noise. I do have one saved over here. So let's look at email messages, and we'll let that load. And then you can see we're actually getting into email content. Now I want to show you this filter just to show you a strategy for filtering into some of these things. So as an example, this email filter, it's literally just saying the file name contains forward, and you'll notice that there's a space. So one thing I noticed is that a lot of the email messages that were actual emails, they started with FWD for forward and then RE. So I can create a filter and then just get at the useful information. And you can see we have almost 3,700 results. Let's go ahead and this actually brings up a good point. We can actually filter by when it was last modified. So this will be useful in looking at the most recent content. We can just kind of resize this to get a better view. But yeah, so if we just click on this one, yeah, so here we go. Again, we can look at the FTP information, where it's being hosted, RIB access management. But then we can start to get into the metadata. This is going to tell us, the type of client. Again, Outlook. Here we go. We're also going to get email addresses, lots and lots of email addresses. We can see, this is a gov email address. Yeah, so this is probably, I wouldn't be surprised if this is some sort of FTP server belonging to, yep. So again, we can look through and just try to identify, relevant information as it might pertain to us or our clients or our companies by looking through the raw headers. This is really great for looking at, just where this email was routed, how it was routed. We'll have the IP addresses. This is probably their internal domain here. And then we can get to the content. So this would be just like we were reading the email, like, dear neighbors. I'm not going to sit here and read all this, but you get the idea. You can actually see, what the email content is. That's really interesting that it looks like they actually have quite a few exposures. I wonder, yeah, so, this might actually be kind of cool. Let's go ahead and look and see if we can identify, who actually owns this server, because we would definitely want to let, the server owner know that they're exposing all these different email addresses, as it's probably pertaining to clients. So if we wanted to do that, how could we start looking at that? I know this is the anonymous FTP module, but let's go ahead and just look over at the DNS really quick and see if we can identify, who this belongs to. So let's just search for the IP address. Oh, yep, there we go. So there's a PTR record. So yeah, this IP address is, yep, and there's the FTP server right there. Yep, so it's definitely going to belong to this right here. And we could even drill into this further, but I think that wraps it up for the anonymous FTP module. There's a lot of different things you can get at, a lot of different exposures. There's hundreds of millions, if not billions at this point, of documents that we've indexed. And again, we are extracting the metadata and content, so there's a lot of information to explore. And I hope you enjoyed it. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out. We'd love to have a discussion. Thanks.